Hello there, AT&T employees, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Sam. I'll be moderating this presentation, and in just a second, we'll be joined by one of our senior financial advisors. His name is Tyson Mavar, and he's here today to give AT&T employees a rundown of their pension and give you some updates on interest rates and other things that you can expect moving forward with your retirement from AT&T. Before Tyson comes on, though, very quickly, like I said, I will be moderating this webinar today. I'll be behind the scenes. I'll be monitoring the Q&A box that's on your screen. Feel free to ask away if you have any questions. I'll also be entering some links that are going to pop up right above Tyson's head as he speaks. Feel free to click directly on those. They're going to guide you to our website where you can book a free appointment with either Tyson or one of our AT&T focused advisors. You can also subscribe to our newsletter, get into many blogs that we have for AT&T employees and retirees. You can also follow us over on YouTube, and you can connect with us on LinkedIn. If you have a LinkedIn account, we would love to connect with you there. There are many opportunities for you to stay updated on your retirement from AT&T, and we would be happy to connect with you. First, one of the things I have to remember to remind you of is that we are not AT&T here, so please be aware of that. We are not affiliated nor endorsed by AT&T. We are a completely independent group of financial advisors, so please keep that in mind as you're listening along. And without further ado, we're going to jump right into it now with Tyson Mavar.
Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for attending our webinar series today. My name is Tyson Mavar. I'm a financial advisor with the retirement group of Wealth Enhancement Group. And today's webinar series, we're going to be talking about the AT&T retirement process, specifically with the pension and eligibility requirements. Been hearing concerns from many of our clients in light of the recent announcement of Verizon to reduce headcount by around 13,000 management employees in an effort to reorient the company. We thought this might be a great opportunity to cover some of the basics and important considerations for somebody approaching their transition from AT&T. So today we'll talk about the different pension options that you have at AT&T. We'll talk about the service pension eligibility requirements, and we'll also talk about the interest rates, how they affect the lump sum, and what the new interest rates have come out to, at least recently. So if you are a Legacy S employee, this is going to be PAC Bell, SBC, specifically for management plans. The craft plans haven't changed over time, but the management plans have changed quite a bit. And if you're a management employee, you're going to get the better of this cash balance plan or the career average minimum pension plan, or CAM plan. As a manager, you will see your total pension as the non-bargain program of the AT&T PBP if you log into Fidelity Net Benefits. And this is going to give you your actual pension payout. You can go into the details and find out how much is your cash balance plan, how much is your CAM plan. Some employees even have two additional pensions, the ATB and the SATB, and the details are really helpful for us as financial advisors to look into to make sure they're calculating your pension correctly, but also to help our folks pick a good retirement date and understand the benefits of waiting to leave AT&T versus the benefits of leaving now, in the case that you actually get to choose your retirement date. In many cases, unfortunately, some people don't get to choose their retirement date and are forced to leave the company based off of a date that the company gives them. And so we want to make sure that you're aware of the different options that you have, but also planning for this transition regardless of the time that it ends up happening. So this CAM plan came out in the early 2000s. And we'll go over the formula of how they calculate this and how it's changed over time in a few slides here. Now, it's also important as a management employee to understand these service pension eligibility requirements, also known as Mod 75. I'll zoom in this slide here a bit so we can see. If you have 30 years of service, you are service pension eligible regardless of your age, but it's also possible to be service pension eligible, or SPE as we call it, with less than 30 years of service if you hit one of these other three milestones. So with 50 years old with at least 25 years of service, 55 years old with at least 20 years of service, or 65 years old with at least 10 years of service. Any of those combinations will allow you to be service pension eligible and typically when you will see a large increase to your pension, both lump sum and annuity options. Keep in mind, however, you have to meet both the age and service requirements of one of these criteria to be service pension eligible. For example, if you are 52 years old with 23 years of service, you will note that that does add up to 75 points, but you are not service pension eligible in that certain circumstance. So let us know if you're uncertain when you hit this criteria. Everybody's at different age when they hit it, and we'll help you not only figure out when that day is, but also go into the modeling tool and understand the benefits of continuing to work at company, at least from a pension perspective. Now, there's also different impacts on your pension based on both life expectancy and interest rates. Most people know that when interest rates go up, your pension plan is going to go down on at least the defined benefit pension plans. The cash balance works a little bit differently. But the defined benefit plan also is impacted by life expectancy, wherein the older you get, assuming that you hit these age penalty milestones, the older you get, the less the company has to give you in your lump sum because your life expectancy is shorter. And what we'll see in a little bit is when interest rates go up, your lump sum is going to go down, but how much depends on your age and specifically your life expectancy. So here's the teeter-totter that we commonly refer to when we're trying to understand when's the best time to retire from AT&T. When interest rates are falling, most people are seeing an increase to their lump sum. And we'll talk about these interest rates in a minute. Of course, interest rates have gone up quite a bit in the last few years, producing lower lump sum payouts. But this is critical for employees in picking the best time to retire, assuming that you get to choose your retirement date. Keep in mind also, most people do not have to take their pension right away. Many people have the opportunity to defer their lump sum, and this could be an example when we see falling interest rates of a good opportunity to wait to take your pension, because you'll get more lump sum if you don't take it right away. Not everybody has the luxury to do that. If you need the money right away, you might not have that opportunity, but we want to make sure we're walking away with the most money possible from the company to get the highest probability of success with our retirement. So here's those interest rates that I mentioned. It's important to note that AT&T only changes these interest rates once per year, and they do that on January 1st. The interest rates that they use to calculate the pension throughout the year are based on the previous November's corporate bond interest rates, which there are three of. The short, intermediate, and long-term corporate bond interest rates, or they also call that first, second, and third segment interest rates respectively. And the second segment rate by far carries the most weight in this calculation, so this is the rate that we pay the closest attention to when trying to determine the best time either to retire from the company or to commence the pension, if we are in that situation where we're waiting to commence the pension after retirement. So now we know what 2025 retirees who commence their pension this year will receive as a lump sum. Those interest rates are known. And you could see they were lower than 2024. So folks received an increase on the lump sum this year. Right now, interest rates are a mixed bag, at least as far as the data that we have through August of this year. So you could see the second segment rate is slightly higher than where it was last year, which is the rate that we care the most about. Although August interest rates don't actually matter for next year's pension calculations, the November rates that carry the weight. So we want to keep a close eye on what is happening to the interest rates at the end of the year. And unfortunately, the IRS doesn't publish these rates typically until around the 20th of December for the November interest rates. So oftentimes we have a very short window to make a decision to retire, to potentially protect our pension in the event of a rising interest rate market, or know that we can wait to commence our pension and maybe even wait to choose our retirement date in the event where interest rates are flat or are falling. This is why we pay close attention to the rates throughout the year, so we can at least have a good guess at where interest rates are going toward the end of the year, knowing that we won't truly have those interest rates that will affect our pension next year until normally around Christmas time, typically. Now, let's talk about the pension formulas, how they've changed, and some of the important considerations as we're approaching our retirement from a timing perspective. So the cash balance plan has been frozen, but the way that it works, they took an opening balance for managers that were working prior to 1995, and they're going to take an average salary from 95 to 96 to create this opening balance. Beyond that time frame, they would add to your pension, your cash balance plan, 5% of future pay credits. This is what was frozen in 2005, so there are no longer pay credits going into this cash balance account. And then continue to credit that with interest rates every year, which is still done, and that's done based off of the 30-year Treasury, which is a higher interest rate than the corporate bond rates that affect the lump sum calculation, and it's certainly a higher rate than the 10-year Treasury, typically, not always, but typically one of the higher rates because it's based on long-term Treasury bonds. This is what equates to your cash balance plan. And while almost nobody is taking their pension as their cash balance, most people will have a greater CAM benefit formula than the cash balance, which is the pension you'll get. The relevance of this cash balance account is in calculating, based on something called the $400 rule, what your partial lump sum is. For managers that have a partial lump sum, which is most managers, you'll see a partial lump sum with residual annuity, where you're basically taking a hybrid between the full lump sum and full annuity. And the way they calculate that is based off of this cash balance account, which is why they still keep track of this account. The CAM benefit, career average minimum formula, this was created in 2001. Everybody that was a manager prior to that time frame was immediately eligible. After that, you had to wait 3 years to become eligible for this career average minimum plan. And for most managers, at least the Legacy S managers, this is going to be your highest and best pension payout, which is what you will see when you run a pension calculation in the net benefit side in Fidelity. So this formula has changed many times over the years, so let's go through it. They took an average pension compensation from 1995 to 1999 and then multiplied that by your years of service, or what they used to call NCS, net credited service, up to 1999, and then added on all your what they call total pension compensation after 1999 to equate to something called your adjusted career income. Beyond that, they are going to multiply it by 1.6% for all of your years of service up to the end of 2021, and then multiply it by 1% for all of your years of service after 2021. This was with the changes that came at the end of 2021 to be more competitive in the industry is how they sold it, but essentially reduce the growth rate of the career average minimum plan. They did the same thing to the Legacy T management pension plan, just in a different way. But this is resulting in a slower growth rate for retirees and less of an incentive to continue working at the company for those that have better alternatives, whether it's retirement or working a different job outside of AT&T. Now, age penalties are a big factor with this career average minimum plan. If you are service pension eligible and over service pension eligible and over age 55, you do not have age penalties. If you are mod 75, you are going to go on what they call Table A, where the penalties aren't quite as severe. And if you are not mod 75, the penalties are very severe, going on to what they call Table B. So basically what you want to know, if you aren't 55 but you have 30 years of service, your penalties are only 3% per year for every year that you are not yet age 55. And as it turns out, you can age out of these penalties. So this is another potential argument to wait to take your pension if you still have some penalties on the pension when you leave the company. If you're mod 75, not age 55, nor 30 years of service, your penalties are going to be 6% per year for every year under age 55 that you had left the company and took your pension. If you're not mod 75, the penalties are quite severe. For example, if you are 54 years old and you leave with 20 years of service, that person was only 1 year away from being service pension eligible and mod 75, but they would walk away with potentially 60% penalties on their pension. So very important consideration for when you leave the company, if you have the choice to stay until that Mod 75 day, and very important to know when you hit that date so you can start to plan around, in many cases at least, making it past your Mod 75 date. Now, there's many forms of payments, and depending on which pension plan you are on, that will define which pension options you have. The lump sum is very attractive for a lot of people that want the flexibility of being able to leave money to their kids, leave a more flexible death benefit to their spouse, invest those funds, potentially producing a better fixed income for themselves than the annuity might be able to provide, giving them more tax efficient options with the flexibility of when to pull funds out, which are of course taxable when they come from the pension. However, there are many good arguments for the variety of different annuity options that exist. So single life annuity, that's normally the biggest pension option, where it is good for you, the retiree, from AT&T's life only. There is no death benefit on the single life annuity, but it is a one of the larger streams of income that you could take from your pension. Joint survivor annuity, the options that you have with this depend upon which plan you're on, but to make it easy to explain, the larger the percentage that's associated with that option, the more money your survivor will get. Typically spouse, but not always. But the less money you will get during your lifetime. So for example, let's say me and my spouse are around the same age. I take the 100% joint survivor and I pass away first. My spouse continues getting the same monthly income as we got together during my lifetime. If I take the 50% joint survivor and I pass first, my spouse will receive a reduction of 50% to that income. However, we together would have received more money in the early years of my retirement prior to my passing. And then I mentioned earlier that partial lump sum with residual annuity. You also have a variety of options on how to take that residual annuity. You're essentially going to get a smaller annuity that comes with a one-time lump sum payout. Rarely do we see clients take that, because oftentimes what the company had chosen, the mix of the lump sum and annuity, doesn't perfectly work out with their flexibility needs, their income needs, their other resources. There's a lot of variables in this decision on which option to take, and it is an option worth considering. I will just tell you that most people, now that all managers have a full lump sum option, don't end up taking that option just because it doesn't really fit in most cases. Now, they have done some things in the last couple of years. We talked about the changes to the pension plan for managers Legacy T and Legacy S. They also sold off some of the pension liabilities to an insurance company, Athene, back in 2023. So essentially 96,000 retirees that used to be getting their pension from AT&T are now getting their pension from Athene. That pension was not immediately impacted. Those people are still getting the same amount of money, but the insurance, or how they are guaranteeing that pension will continue for the rest of their life, has changed. We'll talk about that in a moment. Nothing changed to those that were on, at least immediately, those that were on the retiree health plan. However, that is something that's also not guaranteed. Many of you know that are still working at the company, managers do not have retiree insurance anymore where they used to. Many non-managed employees still do, because the unions have protected that, at least as far as the post-65 Medicare supplement and Medicare Advantage plan. But this is something that we also work with our clients on, identifying how to transition on your health insurance after you leave AT&T. If you leave prior to age 65, which is where, of course, you qualify for Medicare. So this was shook people up. Was a lot of concerns over what could happen in the future, not only to Athene and how that affects those that are getting their pension from Athene, but also will the company continue to do this, sell off pension liabilities so that their retired annuitants are receiving a pension plan from a different organization and have potentially different risks than they did if AT&T was paying their pension throughout their retirement. So the big one is that you lose PBGC insurance when a company sells off your their pension liability. It's your pension asset as a retiree. If that gets sold off to an insurance company, you lose PBGC or Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation insurance. There is still insurance through the state guarantee funds, but it just works differently. And the concerns that we hear is that most people want to have more control over that rather than lose control and be to the whims of the company's balance sheet decision-making process on whether or not they're going to continue paying that pension or sell it off to an insurance company. Others aren't as concerned about this. As long as the money stays the same, we're okay with an insurance company paying our insurance as long as it's a good insurance company. I suppose that wouldn't be as big of a concern, but there is uncertainty with that. And what I hear from most of our clients is that I would just rather have control over that. And that is what the lump sum does offer. You could still take the lump sum and purchase your own annuity from an insurance company that you choose with different potential benefits and potential detriments. That is something that we also review with folks before they're making their decision on how to take their pension. Are there other annuities that might suit your cash flow needs, your death benefit needs, your flexibility needs, your tax bracket status? A lot of different variables in there, and it's worth spending some time on before you're forced to make this decision on how to take your pension. Now, unfortunately, I've been working with the retirement group and AT&T employees for over 15 years in these retirement decisions. What I found, and this is what the statistics show, is about 3/4 of Americans over the age of 50 don't have a written plan for their retirement. Far too commonly, people will come to us the month they get their surplus notice, or the year they decide to retire, or the year that they have a health concern that really forces them into retirement or forces them into a different job, or when the company makes them move and they have to leave the company to avoid having to move their location, their residence. Don't wait until you're forced to make a decision, folks, because inevitably you'll be making one of the biggest decisions of your life under duress, which is where we've seen a lot of mistakes made. How to choose your pension, the timing, making a mistake on your rollover, overpaying on taxes. Put the plan together ahead of time to reduce your stress when you inevitably go through this transition process. We do this for you on a complimentary basis. We offer, whether or not you're a client of ours, to put together a retirement cash flow analysis to help you understand what decisions are likely going to be in your long-term financial best interests, and compare a lot of different decisions, such as how to take your pension, the timing on electing your lump sum, how much to put in your 401k plan, how to invest your 401k, whether or not you should consider an in-service rollover prior to retirement, where you move money from your 401k to an outside investment account that may have more options. There's a lot of ways that we can help you folks, and we don't expect you to become clients if you would like to spend some time with us. All we ask is that if you find value in the exercises and the time that we spend with you, maybe to help us grow our business by recommending some of your coworkers talk to us, or join our seminars, or come to these webinars so that we can help them hopefully as well. Get a second opinion. If you're already working with an advisor, maybe you're doing everything on your own, it doesn't hurt to get a second opinion. I tell my clients it doesn't hurt to talk to another company. Worst case, you'll verify that we are the best fit for your advisory firm. Best case, you learn some things, and we're pretty confident that we do have a good value proposition. These decisions are so important, it just makes sense to spend time on deciding on how to administer your benefits, on who to work with, how to invest this money. It's just too important not to spend time. And some of the things that people have told us that they like about working with us is that we have a lot of clients from AT&T. We've seen probably every mistake in the book made, and we believe that we're qualified to help you avoid them. And we have a good track record. Over 30 years, my experience has been 15, but over 30 years, the retirement group has been helping people transition from AT&T into retirement, and we believe we can help you as well if you're willing to spend a few minutes with us. So with that, we're going to wrap it up for today's webinar series. If you have interest in meeting with myself or one of my colleagues that understands the AT&T benefits, if you just have a couple quick questions, you can email us at info@theretirementgroup.com. You can call us at 800-900-5867, or you can even take a picture of the QR code on the left for a meeting to get onto one of our calendars, or the QR code on the right just to peruse some of the different webinars and series that we've done, some specific to the AT&T benefits, others generic to estate planning, tax planning, investment strategies for retirees. We're here to help, folks, so let us know how we can help, and we appreciate the opportunity to serve you in your retirement planning journey. With that, we'll wrap it up for today. Thank you all so much for attending our webinar today. Everybody have a good, safe rest of your week. Happy holidays, and we hope to talk to you all very soon.